otherwise known as Colton Carlisle. I'm a philosophy major at our Moravian Community College, and as Mr. Weiss said, there's been a last-minute change to my presentation. Instead of arguing God's existence via Leibniz's the methodology, I'm instead going to be talking about skepticism and why we should question God's existence, as well as science. But another thing you don't know about me is I'm actually an accomplished, magician. So I'm going to utilize my magic to help you all understand skepticism, because who better to teach you about questioning things and deception than a magician himself. So without further ado, I'd like to begin. First, you might be asking yourself, what exactly is a skeptic? A skeptic is a person who believes that all knowledge in the world is questionable, and thus it should be questioned. A great example of a skeptic would be David Hume, who questions things constantly, a powerful philosopher of the Enlightenment era. Now I'm going to start by introducing to you guys a simple concept. First, I'm going to walk up to you, sir. I want you to look at this card. You have it memorized?
I do.
You did? Okay. Now can you hold out your hand? I'm going to put your card right here. I'm going to close your hand. He has what we call direct knowledge of the card. This knowledge is something he has personally experienced. He knows what the card is. Now, without looking at the card, can you please tell everyone else in the room your card?
Two of hearts.
A two of hearts. All of you have indirect knowledge. You have not seen this card. However, you would most likely believe him. Why would he lie to you? There's no reason for him to. I assure you I have never met this man. Okay. Now, I would like for you to look at your card. Is that your card?
No.
It's not your two of hearts. What is that card?
It is Ace of Hearts.
It's the Ace of Hearts now. His card changed. And as a result, all of you now have the wrong information. You all believe that he was holding the two of hearts, and your indirect knowledge was wrong because his direct knowledge was wrong. I deceived him. I'm a tricky person. And what else this could mean is we can apply this to many different things. Indirect knowledge is based on direct knowledge. Most knowledge you have is indirect. In science, hundreds of years ago, people believed that everything in the universe revolved around the Earth, revolved around us. Very self-centered, I know, but it was a theory called geocentric theory. This was passed on by scientists who saw the sun rising and setting, and thus they passed on to everyone else to believe this. We later learned that we were quite wrong, and we revolve around the sun, heliocentric theory. This was talked about by Descartes. This is important because everyone was wrong for a while. Science was wrong. It had to evolve to adapt. It should have been questioned more thoroughly before we told everyone that this was fact. This can also be applied to religion. Many people have had a religious experience, or they have a spiritual teacher that convinces them to follow a religion, whether it be a priest, a rabbi, a baptista. You have many different people who can tell you about religious experiences. They have direct knowledge of this religion. But is it always true? They could be under illusion, hallucinations. They could have been deceived, or they could even be deceiving you. And I'm inviting you all to question that with me here today. Next, we're going to move on to some discrepancies that happen in science and religion. These discrepancies are often made because maybe the science is older. Religion was founded on an old principle. For example, in the beginnings of psychology, many people would write down their own findings and results. However, because it was so old, because it also had to be translated, we ran the risk of mistranslation in science, of people getting the wrong words or wrong results because of different units of measurements or different ideas or words. But more than that, we ran the risk of people skewing their evidence. There was a psychologist named Kinsey, a very prominent known sexual psychologist, who lied about his results in sexual psychology so that he could further advance his own lifestyle, so he could make his lifestyle of being a sexual deviant look okay. This also can be used in religion. Many people can talk about these flaws that have been written down. Maybe in a holy book that was written by human beings, they could put their own bias in, their own ideas. They could try to spread their philosophy to you, or their own personal beliefs, without any actual basis. More than that, translation. I know the Bible, for instance, was originally written about a man who spoke Arabic, but was translated into Greek, which was then translated into Latin, which was then translated to Old English, then translated to New English, and now we have it in our own modern English because we can't keep up with the Old English. So, this runs the risk of major mistranslations. When you really think about it, we have so many chances of flaws. And that's another thing I invite you to think about. But more than that, these things are written after the events happen. So there's a lot of potential for things to go wrong. Many of you, I can challenge you to believe, do you really know the first thing I said, word for word? You probably don't. You probably didn't pay that much attention. I'm not that interesting. But we can also say that with many different religious figures, maybe the words are a bit mixed up. Humans make mistakes. So that's another thing I invite you to question. I'm not saying holy books are wrong. I am just telling you all it's important to be skeptics of them. You can't take everything you read as fact. Finally, we're going to move on to the guy I originally wrote about, Leibniz. Leibniz is a very tricky man. He's a deist, so he believes that a God exists, but not a specific religion. He just believes in the existence of a God. He rationalizes this through two arguments, the cosmological argument and the ontological argument. So first, I will start by explaining to each and every one of you the cosmological argument, which is the idea of cause and effect. Everything in the universe has a cause, and these causes will go on infinitely. To give you a small example, the reason why I'm here today is because my parents conceived me on one night. The reason they're there is because their parents conceived them, and so on, and eventually you will get to this beginning system of maybe cells, or evolution, or maybe you believe that everyone was here because a God just wished to be there. But it all started with a God. The only reason that this cause and effect chain has to be broken is because there had to be one thing that existed, a necessary being that was able to move the first domino that created this whole chain of reactions going down the line. This was Leibniz's God, the great architect. The flaw with this argument is, there are two that I can point out. The first one is, Leibniz is using what we call the fallacy of induction. For example, I'm going to shuffle the deck and I'm going to declare a card, alright? Two of spades. It's the two of spades. I'm never wrong. I'm going to shuffle the deck again. And I'm going to shuffle it again. Two of spades. Once again, I'm right. I'm going to shuffle it the same way this time. What would you guys assume the card's going to be?
Two of spades.
Two of spades. You guys are wrong. It was probably the Queen of Diamonds. Oh, Queen of Hearts, my bad. Even I was wrong. So the point is, you all saw me shuffling the deck the same way each time. Because we kept drawing the same card, you guys induced that chances were the next time there was a high probability we redraw that two of spades again. However, that was wrong. And like Leibniz, he observed that everything in the universe has a cause, and he can tell you all of them. But that doesn't mean everything in existence has a cause. What if the thing that is created into the universe is just infinite? Would he call it God? I doubt it. I don't believe that if it just existed on its own, it's God. Next we have to talk about the second flaw, and that is a counter theory, the multiverse theory. Leibniz believed that God was an intelligent designer, one that had to be able to create all these mathematical formulas that our universe follows. And it seems reasonable enough to believe. I mean, we've learned that weather itself can be manipulated. I know we've learned about weather and how the math behind it works. But if the multiverse theory is true, which is the theory that there are an infinite number of universes for every possibility, which means there could be a universe that has no gravity, or a universe that makes no mathematical sense whatsoever, then why would God be intelligent? For example, if we had 1,000 monkeys in a room on typewriters, it's very likely that one of them will eventually produce a Shakespeare. It just means that we happen to live in the accidental universe, the one that made the most sense. So this is one more counter to him. The final argument he has is the ontological argument. It's the last argument I'm going to present to you. This one's a bit harder for even me to understand because the guy talks like he's so much better than all of us. Now, the ontological argument is this belief that God has to be rationalized through the mind. Because God is possible, he must exist. And the reason that this is really prestigious of him is because you would then say, well, Santa Claus can be possible, but he doesn't exist. But Leibniz counters that. This only applies to God. He's playing by his rules. God must be rationalized, but he has no proof. And this is something I accuse rationalists like Leibniz of. If you can't present empirical evidence, your argument might be valid, but it's not truthful. You are not giving enough of a basis for me to follow. And this should be consistent for all of you. You might want to believe that this great creator exists from cause and effect, but you can't sell yourself on it because there is no reliable evidence to support that there is a great creator. We can't disprove it, but we can't prove it likewise. So in conclusion, I would like to invite all of you to be skeptics with me. People are probably not going to like you for it because they're going to insult you. Everyone's a skeptic. You're just being a skeptic. But I say we bring it back. We turn it into a good definition, and we question the world around us. Because nothing is better, no information becomes more accurate without rigorous testing of intelligent people like those I have before me today. And I would like to thank you all for your time.
If time allows in the question period, will you do another trick for us?
Yes, if time allows for it.
That is done without a net and without notes, including notice. Which means the next time I'm sick and need a guest teacher, I think I'm not going to call. Megan, are you ready?
Yes.
Megan Ackerman will speak on the Tao of Pooh.